This is a circus.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley and Ranking Member Feinstein, members of the committee. I am here because I believe it is my civic duty.
You didn't remember what happened the night before, or part of what happened?
You're asking about, blackout. I don't know, have you?
Is that your answer?
Yeah, and I'm curious if you have.
I have no drinking problem.
If you take anything away from yesterday's hearing, take this. Only one party is offered the luxury of being angry, and that's the men.
What do you like to drink?
Next one is
Senator, what do you like to drink?
On the one hand, you had Dr. Blasey Ford calmly outlining the horror of her alleged abuse to the best of her memory, doing so amidst an abundance of thank yous, sorries, and pardons for taking up the Senate's time.
I've had to relive this trauma in front of the world.
And all it took was one glance at Twitter during this, and you saw women all across the world nod their head in a pain-filled recognition. There were countless instances where Ford could have wavered from societal protocol that expects women to be polite and courteous, but she didn't. She remained calm and composed, even apologizing to the committee and asking them if her break times comported with Senator Grassley's needs. Because here's the thing, she didn't have the luxury of her counterparts. Any sign of anger towards the majority white male sitting across from her, grilling her on every aspect of an extraordinarily painful experience, would have allowed her critics to pivot the narrative towards the emotional woman attacks men, both that has long too often been the norm. And then there's Kavanaugh, coming in hotter than Lindsey Graham's phone line, shouting over questions from Democratic senators, repeatedly interrupting to remind the world of his stellar high school record. And then what's a Senate hearing without some misogyny, right? When pressed on his past drinking by a female Senator Klobuchar, he, instead of responding to the question, turned the question on her several times.
If I was in his courtroom and acted like that, he would have thrown me out.
Now just for a split second, take your hands off the keyboard and ask yourself an honest question. If these roles were reversed, if Dr. Ford constantly interrupted while becoming angry and emotional in her attempts to defend her allegations, would she have been celebrated as a brave victim, the way Kavanaugh was when defenders said he was under assault from crazed feminists? Or would she be deemed hysterical and too emotional to be taken seriously? Go to any workplace, in any environment, and you will find this double standard. From the tennis courts to the Senate. You can even look at the response to Lindsey Graham's unhinged defense of Kavanaugh compared to Kamala Harris. While Graham, the guy who voted against the Violence Against Women Act, was celebrated as some champion of men, a brave patriot, Kamala Harris was called disrespectful, smug, and arrogant. Again, proving that women, especially when discussing issues of sexual assault, are not offered the same luxury as men. Their passion or emotion will be turned against them to undermine any validity of their point. Not once did Dr. Ford interrupt. Not once did she disrespect those Republican senators as she responded calmly to questions intended to expose her as a partisan or a liar. If you watched this long and undoubtedly painful hearing for both parties and weren't struck by this double standard, then you, my friend, you are either willfully ignorant or...
So all we have...
You're interviewing me. You're interviewing me. You're doing it, Senator. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're doing it.
No, you're just ignorant. If Dr. Ford's comportment had even remotely mirrored Kavanaugh's, she would have been scrutinized and her name smeared, even more so than it already has been. It proves that we still have a long way to go before we approach these sensitive issues with anything like gender equality. That will only happen when all parties involved in incidents of sexual trauma are afforded the same luxury to express fully how an awful situation has affected them. If you want to interact with me on this, come over to my Instagram, Francis M. Maxwell. You can become a TYT member, tytnetwork.com/join. Never missed another breakdown video by ringing the bell below. You'll get notified whenever we publish something new. And don't forget to join TYT today. Download our TYT Plus app on your phone or head over to tyt.com/join.